So you've just found out that your graduate school supervisor is changing universities, or even worse, is quitting. What do you do? Stick around, let's talk about it today on this episode of Navigating Academia. Welcome everyone, my name is Dr. Phoenix Singh. I want to warmly welcome you to this episode of Navigating Academia, your leading source for guidance on how to advance your career in academia. Now before we get started, as always, I appreciate the love, so please do take a moment to like and share this video with your friends, with your colleagues, with your students. You may know someone who's going through this situation right now, or it may be you. And we're going to be talking deeply about this today, and so I know that probably right now, everything is a little bit chaotic. I completely understand, so please keep watching, stay with me. You're more than welcome to be able to subscribe to us at these social media accounts below. Once this video is done, obviously, first and foremost, I want you guys to be able to get this content, and we'll go from there, okay? So let's jump right in. When you're in graduate school, your supervisor serves a variety of very important functions. This is basically the one individual, usually, who is tasked with being the person who is on your team, as it were, right? Is on your side when it comes to virtually everything, right? They're the ones who are going to assist you with determining what your doctoral dissertation project or projects are going to be. They're the one who you're probably going to be working most closely with when you're writing them up for publication. If you're in a research doctorate program, you're the person who is going to be known as a research student or a doctoral student of Professor such and such. And it really is something where, especially in research doctoral programs, the person you worked with is arguably way more important than the school that you went to. For my postdoc, for example, I went to a university in Florida, which is a wonderful university, but a lot of people asked me, because I went from Oxford to this university, and people said, oh, we were surprised, you didn't switch to an Ivy League university. And I said, no, like this isn't how it works. And when I mentioned to them a few of the people that I was blessed to have the opportunity to work with down in Florida, people were like, wow, that's where all these big name people are. I'm like, yeah, they're all in this one department. It's an amazing, amazing program. That's why I chose to be able to go there. So it's something where the people you work with are so important. So if you're in a situation where your supervisor essentially has left, and there are a variety of reasons for that. In some cases, the way that academia works, and if you've watched other videos on this channel, which I hope you will do and certainly would encourage you to do if you're new to our Navigating Academia family, what you're going to learn is that one of the best ways to be able to significantly increase your income if you are a salaried professor, right, so like a hard money professor especially, is to be able to switch universities, right? Or even to be able to get a job offer at another university and have your current university try to match, if not beat, that new offer, right? I have one colleague down in Texas who it's just like, it's crazy that the guy's taught at like 6 or 7 different universities because he just keeps jumping from university to university and he gets better job offers, and God bless him. If the money is really kind of what you're after, then I think that that's a great thing to be able to do, okay? But regardless of the reason why, maybe they have health issues, God forbid, right? Or maybe, God forbid, there's something that's going on with their families to the point where, they need to essentially put a pause currently on what they're doing. If it's not something where they're, switching jobs because maybe they have a sick parent in another state, they need to move to the other state. These things do happen. Always remember that at the end of the day, people are going to do whatever is best for themselves and their families. Even if it's something where it is at your expense, people are going to do it. And this is something that I found out the hard way all the way through my career. And it is just an inherent truth, even though I don't want it to be. And at a certain point, you're going to have to make those decisions as well, where you will make decisions based on things that are right for you and your family, even though they may not be particularly beneficial for other people. Okay. Now, unfortunately, in this case, you found yourself on the short end of the stick. All right. So what my goal is for this video is to be able to provide you with 5 kind of, quick little tips about if you're in this situation where your supervisor is essentially no longer able to be your supervisor. That's what they're telling you. They will no longer be in your department, at your university, etc. what are the 5 things that I want you to take into consideration? So let's go ahead and get to number 1. So tip number 1 is don't freak out. Now, this is going to be probably the hardest one because, per usual, anything like this that we find out, any new piece of information that changes our world and our life so much, throws us into a state of chaos, right? And essentially, think about it like a yin-yang or so many other kind of archetypal pieces that basically combine order and chaos, right, kind of together. And in all chaos, there is a type of order, and in all order, there is the opportunity for chaos. Now, the trouble here is that you may not have seen this coming. It genuinely may have come out of nowhere. It could be something even where your supervisor knew that they were going to make the switch, but they contractually were not allowed, contractually did not, so the supervisor was not allowed to tell you or anyone else, they weren't allowed to post it online, whatever, that they were going to be switching programs, right? And they were switching universities. And this is something where it's unfortunate because it can really catch you out of nowhere and throw you off. And that chaos that's introduced means that as quickly as possible, you need to reestablish order. In some cases, it's something where that order, that psychological order, won't be what will come first. And because of that, you will need to reestablish physical order as fast as possible. And what I mean by that is diet and exercise and sleep. These are the 3 things. What are you actually putting into your body nutritionally, right? In terms of sleep, are you getting enough? Are you actually staying with your routines, both in terms of waking up and falling asleep? You really need to stay stable with these things because if psychologically everything is out of place, behaviorally we need to get things in order as quickly as possible. Now, this is good advice not only if a supervisor quits, but really for any circumstance. Let's say that you have you and a partner break up. So for example, I broke up with a girlfriend. This was maybe a year ago or so. And when this happened, we'd been together for over a year, so it was a longer relationship. And the first thing that I needed to do was to reestablish order in my life as soon as possible. The form that took for me is that a colleague of mine said, that the gym that he goes to, that they needed somebody to open the gym a few days a week. And it was a really early morning. I had to wake up at like 4 a.m. or something to get to that gym and open it up. But the sheer fact that I had to go somewhere, I had to wake up, get somewhere, there was responsibility on the line. You got paid like, barely anything. By the time I bought a Monster Energy drink and some beef jerky or something, I was already in debt, for the amount of money that I was getting paid at this gym. But I really enjoyed it because it really reestablished that stability. So seek out those things in your life where you can immediately reestablish structure as much as possible, because remember that there can't be too many variables in your life, otherwise it's going to give rise to greater vulnerabilities for anxiety, depression, and so forth. So you need to try to keep it stable as much as possible. But don't get me wrong, I fully understand that freaking out is going to be the first impulse because it's most likely come out of nowhere that this has happened. So that's number 1. Tip number 2 is to schedule a time to speak with your department chair and the head of your program after you've already spoken with your graduate school supervisor, right? After you've had that initial talk, it should be in person. It really should. If not in person, then via Skype or something where you can see the other person. If not that, then phone, and God forbid if you can only communicate with the person via email. It just leaves so many opportunities for miscommunication. I highly recommend meeting with the person in person, okay? Now, when you're actually going after that and meeting with your department chair as well as the head of your program, you can do it at the same time, you can do it one at a time, but having these conversations, especially sharing your concerns and the perceived opportunities that are going to come from this. I'm a deep believer that there is a function behind everything in life. Anything that happens to you, any person that you meet, that there is a function, a practical function that ends up getting served by that person or by that event. And you will not know what that function is that's being served by this thing, which at the time seems like a terrible thing. You may not know for years to come, but eventually it will become clear to you that certain things in your life will not happen unless this would have happened. Always remember that you are going to meet people down the line who are going to have the same difficult circumstance that you are going through right now. And I want you to remember that you are going to be responsible for telling them how you dealt with the problem. So what is it that you want to tell them? Do you want to tell them that after you found out, you just totally gave up, said, I don't want to do the program anymore, that, you cursed somebody out inappropriately and it impacted your relationship with, your program? Or do you want to make it something where it's like, it terrified me, it really scared me, and I had to grab the bull by the horns and really just reestablish the structure. This is how I did it. And it was very, very tough, but I was able to get through it, and you can get through it too. That's what I want you to get through. Because I did have a situation when I was postdoctoral fellow, a few months into it, a couple of my supervisors, they left. They ended up going to a different state, taking different positions. And it totally threw me, because I thought I was going to be working with them for so many years. And that didn't end up happening, unfortunately. And it was something where it really threw me off at first, but through reestablishing things in terms of like comfort, etc., just with structure in my life, that really kind of helped me out. But schedule those appointments, really be upfront about what you would like to see happen now that your supervisor is leaving, and also get their opinion on what you should do. In some cases, they know things that can be done at the departmental level or at that specific university that you just may not be familiar with, that you may not know about. So go in with an open mind, right? And as much as you can, stable, right, to be able to see what they have to say. Tip number 3 is to identify other faculty members in your department or that are affiliated with your graduate program that have similar lines of research to the one that you are currently pursuing. Now, obviously, this is mostly relevant to research doctorates, to be fair, okay? But it's very important, take a look at CVs, take a look at current grants that people may have. It may be something that when you joined the program, the individuals that you're looking at, they didn't have a grant yet, a particular grant, and now they do, and now there's a goodness of fit there. Now, it may be that they do not have the content expertise, right, in terms of the specific area that you're passionate about, but they do have methodological expertise. So maybe you're doing a meta-analysis on something, or something with propensity scoring, or structural equation modeling, or something very unique, right? And maybe the person does not have expertise, again, in the content area, but all of their major work is meta-analytic in nature or SEM in nature, and you can then work with that individual. Is it a perfect fit? It's not a perfect fit. What can I say, right? Now, rarely, if ever, is your department chair going to say, well, you don't have a supervisor, so we're kicking you out. That's not really a thing, right? At least not a thing that I've heard of. And if that's happened to you, I am so sorry. And please do comment below in the comments section. You can tell us a bit about it and how you ended up dealing with it. It would be a blessing for all of us to hear from you. And again, I'm sincerely apologetic that happened to you. But make sure that you're doing some due diligence on faculty members, especially maybe there have been some new faculty members who have joined yours or an affiliate department during the time that you joined your program. Tip number 4 is that when you do meet with your supervisor, don't rule out the possibility that it may be something where your supervisor has negotiated the ability to bring their current graduate students to their new university. Now, this can be a blessing or a curse, right? It can be a blessing. Maybe the new university is a huge, well-known university and you're at a small school that nobody's ever heard of. But it could also be something where the university you're at now is in, Southern California, warm and gorgeous, and that's one of the reasons you really want to apply there. And now all of a sudden you're going to be in the middle of nowhere in the coldest place in North America. Maybe that's what's going to happen. And you don't want to go, or maybe you have kids and the kids have just made their new friends in these things, or your partner, your spouse has just gotten a new job, finally, they're settled, and now you got to uproot them again. So difficult. I understand that this is a fundamentally unfair situation to you. And of course, your supervisor didn't move because of you, of course, right? So it's not your fault that this happened, but it's still happening. There's that great quote that you may be familiar with, and it goes something like, it's not your fault that it happened, but it is your responsibility to figure out where to go from here. And that's really what the case is, right? We need to be constructive and figure out what to do. But don't think immediately that if you just found out, without talking to that supervisor, that they're changing universities, that 100% that they're no longer going to be your supervisor, they're totally out of the picture whatsoever, okay? You need to have that sit down, and don't be surprised if you're really nervous until that happens. And finally, tip number 5 is to recognize that you may need to, quote, go it alone, practically speaking, in your program from that point onward. And this can be terrifying. I remember with my postdoc, when my two principal supervisors ended up leaving for other institutions, that I went and I sat with the head of the postdoc program, who was just this tremendous guy. He was just wonderful. I have very fond memories, and I think very highly of him. And he told me, along with the department chair, we were together, he said, you have a few choices. We can find you maybe somebody else, but there's really no one else who has a strong goodness to fit with your program. He said, or the second option is, we can just kind of let you do everything yourself and just kind of figure out your own research line, pursue your own research line, etc. And, we'll be here if you have questions and all, but, we don't really have any expertise in these areas. So it's kind of going to be more the onus, the burden will really be on you. And that was, it was terrifying. At the same time, I knew that it was a real chance for me to prove to myself that I was, as a very young man at that age, I think it was 24. Yeah, 24 sounds right. I had to prove to myself that I was able to do things without a supervisor, that I could literally, begin and end research projects totally alone, like from conceptualization all the way through data collection, design, IRB, everything, all the way through to publication. And not small studies, but big study ideas. And some studies that have been cited the most in terms of my personal background have come out during those times, that I've developed during those times, these passion projects. And I promise you that you must be feeling a lot of fear right now. These projects came out of fear. I didn't know that I could do it myself. I really didn't. I had a lot of anxiety about it, because until that time, I had really been working closely with other people, and now I was going totally alone. Especially to be able to invite big name people to collaborate with me, that was terrifying at the time. But I can tell you that it set me up for long-term success in a big way. Remember that the goal of the doctorate itself, of you doing the doctoral program, is to prove that you are capable of producing high-quality peer-reviewed literature from front to end, right? So if you are able to conduct the studies, right, get the data using whatever methodology you choose, right, and especially if you can find a way to publish the different chapters of the dissertation. Maybe you've got an intro that is a lit review, and then you publish it as a book chapter. And then, the second chapter is a meta-analysis, and the third chapter is in development of a new instrument psychometrically. If you can publish those different things, then when it comes time for you to do the defense, so I don't know how on earth they are the ones that people doing your viva, your defense, they're the ones who are going to need to defend themselves. If they reject you, there's going to have to be a really good reason for them to say you don't deserve the doctorate. If you have just gone it alone and done all this stuff yourself, you are maximizing the likelihood that you're going to be perfectly fine if you pursue that kind of pre-defense publication strategy. And please know that I know what it feels like to have to go it alone and for it to be that scary. I really do. But this can end up being something where the function of it is to get you into a place where after graduate school, you're like set for your career because you know you can do this independently. And that speaks so highly about your character. And I just have a lot of respect for you if you take that stance. All right, everybody, signing off for the day. Thank you so much for joining us. Please do remember to like this video, share it with anyone who you think could benefit from it, particularly if you know that they're going through this very difficult situation. Please do leave a comment below as well, especially if you enjoyed the video. It helps us out a lot in terms of the YouTube algorithm. We're a young channel. We're always trying to grow, so we really appreciate if you could help spread the word about the channel, including by sharing a link to this video on your social media accounts. Thank you so much for stopping by, everyone. It's a pleasure to have you here as always. If you enjoyed this video and you'd like to see more in this series on navigating academia, please click on one of these links over here to be able to view more original content. I hope to see you there.